Welcome to Scary Stories, the channel that tells you scary stories.
Paranormal Interdimensional Dogman Ranch.
As told to Peter Bernard. Read by P.Q. Ribber
and Madeline Starr. Welcome to Scary Stories. Today we have an especially strange and weird episode for you called Paranormal Interdimensional Dogman Ranch. This is not the same story as Dark Water's Dogman Ranch from 2017, although that is a great video. You should check it out here on YouTube. This version we're about to read to you came to us back in January from a husband and wife who each have diametrically opposed opinions about the paranormal events they're both experiencing. He's being menaced by dogmen on his own property, while let's just get straight to the letters. I'll read the parts written by the husband, and the wife's parts will be read by Madeline Starr. Fasten your seatbelts. This one goes in 3 directions at once. I own a ranch that my friends have recently taken to calling Dogman Ranch. I'm not going to tell you where it is because as much as I love America, I don't want all of America showing up on my back porch. I'm not ready to sell to Bob Bigelow yet or anything of that nature, but I am at the point where I want to begin to reach out to all of you about it. This is because my wife is starting to go public about what she views as the supernatural or paranormal aspects of the place. The two of us have differing opinions about what is going on here because the phenomenon manifests to us each in somewhat different ways. For instance, she has never seen one of the dogmen, and she is firmly convinced that we are haunted by ghosts. My experience does not match with those conclusions. We'll both attempt to explain our sides of the story, and we'd be interested in any advice or information that you guys out there in the public might want to share with us. Let me begin at the beginning. We lived in this ranch, which we do not actually farm on, for 5 or maybe 6 years before I noticed anything unusual. Since then, I have seen giant, prehistoric-looking dogs or wolves that sometimes stand on their hind legs and walk around. I have seen things that appear like silver flying objects in daylight, but look more like multicolored glowing flying orbs at night. I have heard disembodied voices or invisible people speaking to me, calling me by name, saying insulting things to me, and one time even physically assaulting me. Like I said, the ranch was just a normal place for me for over 5 years before any of this began. My wife, on the other hand, started having what she views as paranormal experiences far earlier on. I'll let her explain.
For the sake of this story, let's say my husband's name is Joe and that my name is Mary. Neither is our actual name. Once our youngest daughter had moved out and we were finally on our own again, Joe and I really wanted a place that could be like our own little world. We looked into getting an island, but this place here was more land for less money, and so we grabbed it. This was our dream retirement plan, and we were getting to live it out. Joe and the real estate people call it a ranch because it used to be part of a huge cattle ranch a long time ago. But it's just our home and our meadows and our various small lakes and streams and patches of small forest, which all connect to a large state forest that our property is alongside. A little patch of heaven, just for the two of us. So Joe never believed me when I told him the ranch was haunted. I can't say I blamed him at first, because it really only started after we had settled in a few months. It's not like I sensed something strange when we first saw the place or anything. It seemed like a lovely old house and a beautiful bit of country surrounding it. But things got weird after I finally went through the old boxes left up in the attic. Previous tenants had left belongings up there that they didn't want to move. We were fine with that, since maybe something valuable was in there. And I love to go through old things looking for lost gems. I didn't really find many gems up there, maybe a few baubles. There was an interesting portrait of someone. It looked to be a woman in her later years, photographed in black and white and framed behind glass on a large frame too big for me to even lift up. The stare of the woman was intense, and I found the portrait unnerving. That night, I woke up around 3 a.m. and went downstairs for some reason. I figured I must have been hungry or thirsty, so I headed toward the kitchen through the living room. But before I got to the kitchen, I heard a voice. I wasn't sure if it was a male or female voice, but it sounded sad. It just said, "Please hang up the picture." And that was it. I wasn't really hungry or thirsty, but I was now frightened. And so I went back upstairs quickly. That weekend, I got Joe to help me lift the portrait up and hang it in the attic. I hoped that would please the voice. Joe thought I was crazy, but I still hadn't told him I'd been asked to do this. So that night, or the night after, I had a dream where the lady in the photograph asked me to please hang the portrait over the fireplace. I told her it was too large for me to lift and carry down from the attic, but she reminded me that my husband is very resourceful. I woke up knowing I was going to have to tell Joe I wanted to hang the picture over the fireplace and that he'd probably have to hire someone to get it done, due to the size and weight of the thing. I knew this would annoy my husband and that it would be a real test of our relationship. Joe hired people to professionally move and hang the picture, which now dominated the room. He absolutely hated it. He said that wherever he went in the room, that lady was staring at him. That was true. It felt like this was now her room and not ours. Joe stopped using that living room entirely and started spending his leisure time in some rooms he redecorated in the north wing of the building. I soon joined him there because I never heard voices from that part of the house. The old lady's living room, as Joe now calls it, remained mostly unused until I made friends with the owner of an occult bookstore in a nearby town. Soon the store owner, let's call her Martha, was holding weekly seances in the old lady's room by the fireplace. We learned the lady's real name, which was later verified using records at one of the local libraries. I won't give her name here, as that would tell you exactly where I am writing this from. We were told there is also the spirit of a child upstairs who died in the house, but we have not found corroboration for that in the state's records yet. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. There are ghosts of several pet dogs and cats who sometimes jump into bed with us at night, but not all the time. My husband more recently has claimed he hears male voices talking, but I am certain he is imagining this, as we have never been informed of male spirits in the house in any of our seances. I have also seen orbs, both on the grounds of the estate and in the house itself. One time during a seance, a brightly colored globe appeared like a flying electric light bulb made out of soap bubbles, flew into the room from an open window, flew a figure eight over our heads, terrifying us, then flew straight up our chimney and out. It seemed lit from inside, and the color of the light was continually changing. It was the most beautiful and otherworldly thing I had ever seen. Martha said this was a great spirit, a very strong manifestation. It left too soon for us to ask its name. Another time, about 5 years after that, I was walking outside with Joe just after the sunset, and we both saw a very similar thing, but this one glowed and shone orange, red, and yellow over and over. It flitted about in the forest around us, then emerged from the trees to either present itself to us or to look us over. I remember we were in the field behind the house, not more than 50 or 60 feet from our back door, when the light flew in front of us, blocking our path. It was probably about the size of a basketball or soccer ball. While I stood entranced, Joe picked up a rock from the ground and hurled it at the spirit. Rather than returning to the forest, I saw it shoot directly up in the air until I couldn't see it any longer. Joe and I got in a quarrel because I was upset that he would throw a rock at a ghost visiting us. He said those things are not ghosts and started telling me all these weird theories, which I admit I still don't fully comprehend. He thinks the ghosts aren't ghosts, or something. Maybe I better let him explain.
My wife likes to read vampire romance novels and watch ghost hunting TV shows, so she's sort of brainwashed to view all phenomena through those filters of interpretation. I prefer to stick with the facts and not embellish them or go crazy with theories based on fantasy. There's one thing I can be certain about with this phenomenon or phenomena. There are at least parts of it which are intelligent. There are parts of it that are listening to everything my wife and I say, and possibly what we think as well. Then, parts of it say or do things that make us think our theories are correct. If my wife thinks they are ghosts, they'll walk up and down dragging chains in the hallway outside our bedroom at night. I haven't heard that myself, but my wife insists it happens. A friend of mine who was visiting had a theory that these are invisible space aliens using my ranch as a base, and then that night at dusk, we both saw a classic silver disc flying saucer over the forest. It was dancing along the top branches of the trees for some reason. As dusk became night, it continued its movements, but now it appeared like one of the multicolored glowing orbs I described earlier, not like a silver disc at all. It would move left, right, front, back, up and down in a way that no helicopter could. They fly more like insects or hummingbirds, or really, it doesn't even look like flying, it looks more like swimming. They resemble jellyfish swimming through the ocean of the sky. They appear to my wife as ghosts, to my friend as UFOs, but to me as bizarre mysteries that I haven't yet been able to define. Now, the first time I saw one of the dogmen, I was with a different friend of mine, who I will call Felix for this story. That is not his real name. I was out walking on the grounds with Felix, who was visiting me for the first time in years while my wife was out of town. We were reminiscing, and I was also telling him about the weird lights on the ranch and how my wife thinks the place is haunted. Out of nowhere, we heard this incredibly loud scream. We both dropped to the ground, not having any idea what made that noise or if we were in danger or not. We just lay there, not moving, listening and watching to see what would happen next. At that moment, an immense dog or wolf thing came bounding out of the forest in a playful manner and started sniffing around vigorously, probably for us. I grabbed Felix so that he wouldn't run away. Better to keep still. Running away would make us look like prey and probably cause the animal to hunt us instinctively. I think the dog caught some of our scent because it began a low growling and became even more intense in its search through the forest floor for us. I was shaking all over and sweating so much it felt like I had just walked through the rain. The monster dog was inches away from finding us. "I'm going to run for it," whispered Felix, which alerted the dog thing instantly to our presence. It lurched toward Felix, grabbing him with its dagger-like teeth by the front of his jacket and pulling him quickly up in the air. Felix was a rag doll to this dog. I stood up, trying to figure out how to rescue my friend, when the dog thing dropped Felix to the ground in front of himself and began licking the guy all over, wagging its tail. It wanted to play. I grabbed a branch, the largest branch I could see near me that I thought I could throw. I whistled to the dog to get his attention away from Felix. Once it looked in my direction, I wiggled the stick, and its ears perked up. I hurled the branch with all my strength as far as I could throw it, and the dog stood up on its hind legs to try to catch it. Missing, it took off in the woods after it, not returning to all fours until it had traversed maybe 90 or 100 feet of meadow and was about to re-enter the woods. "Let's run," I ordered Felix, and we raced back through the early evening to the house. About halfway there, the dogman emerged from the forest and playfully ran toward us, the tree branch looking like a twig in its immense jaws. We made it back inside, and the dog jumped up and down on the back porch, begging to be let in. Felix and I went to the wine cellar. When we resurfaced hours later, the creature had gone, leaving a dirty mess and the tree branch on our back porch. I have seen these creatures, which Felix calls dogmen, on 3 other occasions, but I have never seen the same one twice. They always have different markings, but they seem to be of the same species. Since they seem to be on all fours as often as I see them on 2 legs, I'm not sure if they are the same thing as the dogmen other people report. I also sometimes think that what I'm looking at is a prehistoric wolf or dog that is capable of walking on its hind legs, probably in order to see farther and to intimidate enemies. I have not seen it enough to know whether it walks mainly on 2 legs or 4. Another thing is that I have not noticed their hands or front paws when I've seen them. I'm not certain if this creature has paws or hands, but I know that whichever it has is large and dangerous. The first creature we encountered wanted to play. The other 3 I saw seemed extremely less friendly. If there's any interest, I can go into further details on these encounters. I also want to get back to my wife's claims of ghosts in the house. I have experienced what I think are the same entities she thinks are spirits, and I can assure you that they are quite solid, whatever they are. And I also want to point it out that they are complete jerks. One time, I worked all day erecting a fence on part of our property. I don't know why, but some people using the state forest would park in our land before hiking, so this fence was to prevent that. As I was walking back home proud of myself that I handled the job without hiring someone to help me, I was met with invisible voices mocking me. They were making fun of how I walked. They were accusing me of having too much pride in building a mediocre-looking fence. It sounded like 2 men and a woman, and they seemed to surround me. They called me terrible names I won't repeat here, and said I should move out and leave my wife here. That was all I could take, so I started swinging my fist wildly toward where I last heard the voice speaking. I connected with something solid. It felt like I hit someone on the shoulder. It felt like a man, wearing clothes, but I could see nothing there. That's when nothing hit me square in the nose and turned my lights out. I woke up on the grass a while later with a broken nose. In spite of this physical evidence, my wife does not believe me that this is evidence disproving her ghost theory. She insists that I injured myself somehow. That was over a year ago, and in my opinion, the doctors did not restore my nose to its original appearance. My face was altered forever, yet my wife still insists that these are ghosts and spirits. Why don't I let her argue her own case?
My husband mischaracterizes my opinions and statements. I don't know how he injured his nose, but there is no reason to tell horrible stories like that about the spirits in this house. Maybe he's just jealous that they like me more than they like him. These are most definitely spirits. If he studied the subject even a little bit, he would learn that spirits can manifest in various ways in the material world. For instance, we have experienced much poltergeist activity here. The conventional explanation for poltergeists, which means noisy ghosts, is that a teenager is making the objects move around by themselves using psychokinesis. We no longer have any teenagers in our house, and I can assure you that spirits themselves are sometimes the source of poltergeist activity. They can pick things up and move them. The photo of Joe that I keep on the desk in my office is always turned face down every morning when I go in there. I turn it back to face me, but then the next morning it's been turned back down. That is a ghost or spirit doing that. And if you ask me, that's Joe's karma. He can never be nice to them. He accuses them of bullying him. He won't hang out in the old lady's living room. He's just openly unfriendly to the spirits. If this were not a ghost haunting, then why did the spirit identify herself as the lady in the portrait and ask that her picture be mounted again over the fireplace? If these are invisible people, as my husband claims, why are they haunting the old lady's mansion? What about the ghost cats and dogs we feel get into bed with us? Are they real animals who made themselves invisible to bully my husband? And why does my husband insist that the glowing orbs we all see around here are not manifestations of ghosts, but rather some sort of UFO or flying jellyfish or something? Years of tradition, as well as Occam's razor, dictate that these are ghosts, not flying saucers. And if this ranch is inhabited by giant wolves who talk like men, why have I never seen any of them? Why only my husband? Why do the ghosts only insult him and not me? They've never told me to move, only him, supposedly. I love Joe, but sometimes I wonder if he's making up stories just to get attention.
And there you have it. I'm married to a woman who holds seances and believes what she hears and then goes around telling people that I'm the crazy one in the family. I don't even have a theory about what is going on, so I think I'm the sanest one. I've just described these incidents to you. I didn't push a worldview onto those experiences the way my wife does. It's easier to believe her because she's answering all the questions, but in my opinion, when it comes to things like Dogman, UFOs, and invisible entities, it's probably foolish to think that we have any of the answers. I sure don't know what any of this is. I'm the owner of Dogman Ranch. If you have advice, please leave it in the comments. And have a safe day.
And now, get ready for an all-new, completely uncensored, slightly bloody, and absolutely terrifying new Dogman story. Oh, wait. YouTube won't allow me to tell you stories like that on this channel. If you want to hear that, you're going to have to go to peterbernard.com and sign up for our paid subscribers club. You can choose any price you can afford for a 1-month subscription, and then every weekend, we tell you a story YouTube would never allow us to tell you on this channel. See you this Sunday for an all-new, very scary, completely uncensored Dogman story.
If you enjoyed this, please click like or consider subscribing. Remember to click the bell icon or you won't get notifications. If you want to listen to Bigfoot's secret uncensored story each Sunday, just go to peterbernard.com and become a paid subscriber. See you tomorrow. Same dog time, same dog channel.
Come back for more scary stories.